a lot of people have been asking me to take a look at the marquees that I own, so I just want to go through some of them, and that's what we're gonna do. Right here, starting off with Galaga, one of my favorites. I'm not the best at it, but I remember playing that game, and I like getting the twin ships, all that. It's a classic. I love it. Joust. It's not one that I love, but it's good. This art is fantastic. Probably the best part of it. The Glob is a game that not a lot of people have probably played, but it's an old arcade game. It's one where you like go up and down elevators. It's a little weird, but I actually really like it. I should probably stream it. Pac-Man. What is there to say about Pac-Man besides nothing at this point? Did you know it used to be called Puck-Man originally? Let's not even go there. Robotron 2084, one of my favorite arcade games ever. Just like the effects, and it's a twin stick shooter. It's just, I love it. It's just one of the best. Baby Pac-Man was really interesting because it was, I guess, the first arcade machine, or one of the only ones that's half a pinball machine, half, actual arcade game, and it's a really interesting machine. I've played it before. As far as the marquee goes, it's cool. It's pretty big. Wizard of War is an awesome, actually it's probably one of the most beautiful arcade machines ever. It's just really, I don't know, sleek and great looking. The marquee, I just love the marquee. I did a review of this a really long time ago. It's a fun game. It's just, I love Wizard of War. It's awesome, and I wish that was me. This is Miss Pac-Man marquee. I actually have two of these. This one's a little faded. The other one I have looks better. This is actually, I actually own the arcade machine of this. Defender, a classic. I'm not good at it, but it is a classic. It's kind of a little bit of a dull marquee. It's just as basic as it gets. Now, you want one that's not so basic as this. Satan's Hollow. This game is awesome. It's one of the first games I think I streamed, maybe the first arcade game, and the machine is just awesome. It's like this red machine with this joystick on it, and I like the game. I like the gameplay. This is honestly one of the best marquees that I've seen. Like, look at that art. And, speaking of people who are me, that's actually me right there. That's me. Mr. Do. There are a couple different versions of the Mr. Do marquee. This is one of them. I'll show you the other one. I actually have the other one. And I think this might be the first version of it. I'm not sure. But, people say it's just a Dig Dug ripoff, and it kind of is, but I like this game better than Dig Dug. The one on Super Nintendo, I actually like the Super Nintendo game a lot. It's just, I don't know. I love Mr. Do. Bosconian. This is a Midway game, Bally Midway, that I've been wanting to play for a long time. I just never get around to it, so hopefully one day I will. Kangaroo. I used to play this on Atari 2600. That's where I was like introduced to that, really. But the arcade game's better. It's a tough game, and the controls are definitely pretty like stiff and wonky, but I like it. It's a classic. I love how the actual game looks. I don't really like this marquee, but I like how the game itself looks. Centipede, look at that. That's also one of the best marquees. Everybody's seen that, but just great art. And I do love the game. Centipede and Millipede. I think I like Millipede more. And I believe the marquee for Millipede is actually like a paper marquee. If any of you guys know about like paper marquees compared to like these, I guess, original glass marquees. Some of them are glass, and I think some of them are plexiglass. Here's a Gradius one. I believe this is the original marquee. I think, like I was just saying, I think some of them are paper. This one's paper, but, really cool marquee. And here is Pac-Land. This is, like, pretty much the first arcade game, one of the first games I ever played. I love the art. It's very cartoony. This is a very large marquee compared to some of the other ones. You can see how sort of smaller that one is compared to that. It's really just, it's very nostalgic for me, and I had to get that one. This marquee is beautiful. This might, in my opinion, this might be the most good-looking art, marquee that there is. It's just like, look at that art. That just, to me, is like perfect. Super Pac-Man. Also one of the first games I ever played. Not the best version of Pac-Man, but it's okay. You get keys and whatever, go through doors or what. It's fine. I'm realizing now I have so many marquees, this might get exhausting, but this is Gorf. It is like a space game. Gorf is frog backwards. Oh my god. Lock and Chase. I think that one's kind of like a Pac-Man clone. There's the Dig Dug marquee. Pac-Man Plus. I kind of like that. I like that better than like the Super Pac-Man marquee. Where are we at here? Mr. Do's Wild Ride. I always thought that was a crappy version of Mr. Do. Krull. And there's the Glaive. Ooh, you ever see Krull? It's kind of crap. Rally X, a driving game. Kind of a neat marquee. I kind of like that art. It's pretty cool. I like the green and stuff. Rock and Rope. I've streamed that before. I like Rock and Rope. It's a good arcade game. You shoot your like scorpion thing out and you gotta like climb the rocks. It's pretty neat. I think I've shown everything in here, so we're gonna move on. Alright, a couple marquees here. This is a Glass Alien vs. Predator. I'm sure a lot of you guys will like that one. I think I streamed that, or we did a James and Mike Monday. I don't quite remember, but I'm pretty sure we've played that before. Sinistar. Man, Sinistar, that is the game where they made it really loud. So if you were like outside in the mall or something like that, you would hear this loud screaming and it would make you like want to come into the arcade to play it. It's an awesome game. Here's Dungeons and Dragons Tower of Doom. This is the first one in the series. I like sorry for this, there's a light. I like Shadows over Mystara better, but it's cool. I played that before. I like it still. What can I say about Asteroids? It's like one of the most basic games there is, but cool marquee. I like it. And there's the other Mr. Do. I think that's the second version of the marquee, but that's the one I know more so. That's the one where if you look up a picture of Screech from Saved by the Bell, he's standing in front of the machine, and it's that marquee. Carnival's a great game. It's like you're basically just shooting upwards like a lot of them, but you have to shoot bunnies and eagles and stuff like that coming down. It's just fun. It's a classic game. I bet you never heard of this one, Donkey Kong. I did a interview one time with Wes Copeland, the current high score keeper of the game. It's just maybe the most famous arcade machine of all time. So what else can I say? Here's the Nibbler marquee, Rock-Olas. This had a movie documentary kind of thing based around it called Man vs. Snake, I think. And yeah, it's kind of like just like a worm kind of going around a maze, and it's pretty fast paced. I played it before. It's tough, but I like it. I don't know if it's been released on really much, but it'd be cool if that game got like, I don't know, released on Steam or something, some way to play it. Here's Donkey Kong 3, which there's Donkey Kong, there's Donkey Kong Jr., and then this is the third one. I like Donkey Kong 3 a lot. You'll see how he's got the bug catching thing. You basically shoot upwards at Donkey Kong and they're in like a greenhouse. It's real good. I like Donkey Kong 3. This is my Marble Madness marquee. Can I speak? I like the arcade game so much better than the NES game. The NES game hurts my hand, and this one you play with a trackball, and it's so much better. It's a great arcade machine. Here's Arkanoid, another one I played more so on NES, because I have the, what's it called, the Arkanoid controller, which is wonky to get working, but it does kind of work, or you can play with a D-pad. But the arcade game is probably a lot better to play in the arcade. Here's Double Dragon. I actually beat this game in Disney World when I was a little kid, and maybe one of the first arcade games I ever beat in the arcade. Hubert, that's one of my favorite arcade cabinets ever, and look at the artwork. It's just so good and fun and cartoony. This is Killer Comet, and I'm not gonna lie, I have never played it, but I really like this. I like the artwork. I like how they did space and all that. It's really neat looking. I should play it sometime. This is my Miss Pac-Man marquee that isn't all faded. It's really nice looking. So I have it out here by my Atari collection. And up here I have Ladybug, which is a fun classic arcade game. Over here we have Pac-Mania. You'll see that it's, this one actually, is, pops out almost like puffy sticker or something. A local store that I used to go to actually had that game, and it's kind of like Pac-Man Can Jump, and it's probably the first 3D version of Pac-Man. It's pretty cool. This is really interesting. First of all, the marquee is great. You know, I think the artwork, it's very detailed. I love it. But this machine, if you see the actual machine, the actual machine is slanted, so it's very weird and unique. But yeah. I've got some more here. This one is Wizard Fire, another one I've been wanting to play on stream. This one actually came out on the Nintendo Switch, I'm pretty sure, so some of you might have actually played that one before or heard of it. So I'd like to stream that. This is Black Tiger, another cool marquee, and a, you know, old classic. Nemesis, which is basically Gradius. What else do we got? We got Bump and Jump. This one is a really big glass marquee. And here we have the Ninja Gaiden game, for the arcade game, which is very, very different than, you know, than what you'd expect. And here we have Magic Sword. He almost looks like He-Man. I wonder if that was the intention. But I love this marquee. It's really awesome looking. And I think I might have beat this game before. Oh, you know what? I think it's on Super Nintendo or something. I probably beat that. But, you know, cool game. Great marquee. And back here behind Snake Mountain, I have the Popeye marquee, which, again, I had the NES game of it. Fun game. I can only play it for so long, but I actually have the, I guess it's called the bezel that goes around the screen for this as well, somewhere. I've got a couple of things like that aren't just the marquees. Maybe I'll show that too. Okay, I'm kind of wrong. What I was thinking of was where the controller goes. So I have that piece of it. And the other thing is I have Jack the Giant Killer, which I've never played that game, but I'd like to. Sometimes you'll find arcade marquees for like rare games like this, and it makes me just want to, you know, try out some of these games. The lighting's probably not going to be too great right here because I'm in an awkward space. But here's Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. I'm going to be honest, I don't know that I've ever played the actual arcade machine for this. So, yeah. And if it's echoing in here, this is a different room. This is the Jungle Heart. This is the Jungle Hunt marquee. It's really basic, and I actually don't really like this one. It's too basic. Like, they should have the characters and stuff on there. The Atari art for that, like the Atari 2600 art, is like way better. Pole position, here you go. This is nice art. I was never too into the game, but nice looking marquee. You'll like this one, versus Hogan's Alley. Check that out. I do like Hogan's Alley. Ghosts and Goblins. There are two different versions of this marquee, and here is another one right there. Pretty cool. But yeah, I like this bottom one better, I think. Fucking just awesome Capcom, you know, art right there. First thing anybody's gonna say is reference Seinfeld at this point, but yeah, Frogger's a cool game. What else do we got here? We got Goonies, the arcade game, versus the arcade game, but the first Goonies, not the fucking Goonies 2 NES shit. And that's a little dark up here, but this is Berserk, which a friend of mine had when I was a kid, and it was the first time I ever played a free play arcade game. So I have some more marquees tucked away here and there, but I'm going to stop there because I'd have to get them out. But that's the majority of them. There's still more I'm looking for. But basically, there's also an art book, by the way, all about marquees, that if you like these marquees, you could pick that up. It's a pretty good book. I got a game here called, or I got a marquee here called Kick. And by the way, if this is the first one of these you're watching, I collect arcade marquees. I try to get all original ones, and we'll talk a little bit about that. This was a game by Bally Midway, as you see. It was called Kick. This game had like a clown on a unicycle, and balloons would drop from the sky, and you'd like pop them on your head. But some of the balloons you could like kick, which was, you know, hence the name of the game. What's funny is because it was, you know, Bally Midway. There was actually, some of the balloons were Pac-Man, and some of the balloons were like ghosts, basically, and all this shit would like drop down. But that's the game. the marquee itself, I think this is a nice marquee. I like the design. It's very, I was just about to say it's very 70s, but it says 1981, but I guess, you know, kind of coming off of the 70s. I really like it. You know, I have a fondness for the Bally Midway marquees in particular, probably because I'm such a Pac-Man fan. Let's move on to the next one. I have Black Widow. This is a nice marquee, Black Widow. I like the color scheme on it a lot. This game was a conversion of the game Gravatar, which I think did not sell very well, so they, you know, changed it into Black Widow. Kind of like that situation with how they changed Sky Skipper into Popeye, if you know that whole situation. But anyway, this was a vector graphics game, which, you know, vector monitor game, which, you know, you guys know that I love those. I'm a very big fan of that. This game's sort of like Tempest, maybe a little like Centipede 2, because, you know, the bugs and everything. But, you know, okay font. I just really like the colors on this one. Pretty cool marquee. This one over here, I have no idea how to pronounce this. Pleiades or something? Pleiades? It's like, you know, awful. Some games have such awful names, like Zexes and stuff. I don't know how to pronounce that. But I'm going to go ahead and say I don't really like this marquee. I like most of the ones I own. This one I think is pretty poor. All I know about this, I think it was a semi-sequel to Phoenix, which is a game I do actually really like. I had that game on Atari, and, you know, I played it in the arcade. I like it in the arcade better, which is usually the case, except for Ghosts and Goblins. But yeah, this game was by Century, which I think they published Phoenix. But yeah, don't really like this marquee. Here is a marquee I absolutely love, though. This is Crazy Climber, which is very much like a you know, King Kong sort of parody. You're climbing a building, a little like the, you know, Spider-Man on Atari 2600. It even looks almost like Marvel art to a degree. You know, that could be Peter Parker right there. Great font, great marquee overall. Gameplay is basically, like I said, you're climbing a building. There's like King Kong type of dudes. This is like the Giant Claw or something. Great font on this marquee. One thing that's funny about the game is there are seagulls as you're going up, and they're crapping down like fire on you. So if you ever want to play a game with, you know, seagulls crapping down fire, or I guess they're these. I guess they're like these condor things. But great marquee. One of my favorites I have. Very much like a comic book, an old comic book. Very cool. How about that for a name? Space Zap. Great. But I actually really like it. It's as basic as you can get. Really nice font. For doing so little with color, just black and white, it's actually a very cool design with the, you know, lightning bolt going through it. This is the one that has the back that's like, I don't know why the back would be like this, but it's sort of like nobody's gonna see the back when it's on the marquee, so I don't get why it would be like that. Very strange. And it's not just like somebody splattered. I guess it's just, I don't know. I have no idea why the back's like that. Anyway, Space Zap, it's from 1980, and the game itself is basically like Cosmic Arc on Atari 2600, if you ever played that, where you're just like sort of zapping in 4 directions, and it's kind of an okay game. So Space Zap, pretty cool. I do like this marquee. Here we have one called The End by Stern, which most people would know from, they made, you know, pinball games. The gameplay is a little bit like Galaga, and this marquee is a little messed up. As you can see, it's kind of like scratched and stuff, but I like this art a lot. It reminds me of something out of like EC Comics or like Weird Science Fantasy, any of that old EC Comics stuff, something like that, or just old comic books in general. Nice inking on there, and just very nice looking marquee. I have not played the game yet, but yeah, just really nice art. Let's go into Millipede here. Millipede is actually one of my favorite arcade games. It was on glass. You can see the glass there, which would, you know, always, it would shine through the back with the light, and then this would light up and look a lot nicer than it does right now. But I always liked Millipede a lot better than I liked Centipede for whatever reason. It's a trackball game. Love the game. And I like this Marquee too, how it sort of has that border. I can imagine some people thinking it's really ugly, but I love this Marquee. I think it's classic, and it's a really great game by Atari. So I just want to show, like, most of these Marquees, you know, they're made of like plexiglass or glass, like that Millipede one. But this one that I got here, this is Rolling Thunder. And this is a strange case, and I didn't know what the deal with it was at first. And I asked around several people, and basically, check out this. This is like wood on the back, right? And the Marquees are usually glass or plexiglass. And I think that's the material, at least I guess it's plexiglass, I don't really know. But, so here's the deal with this that I found out. It was more common in Europe for them to make the Marquees out of wood for some reason. I don't know why, but I do know that, you know, the Marquees would typically like light up from the back, and then, you know, when you're playing it, it like lights up in the, you know, in the arcade. Well, this wouldn't light up because it's made of wood, right? So they would have a light above that would like shine down on it, I believe. So that's the deal with that. This game was also on NES. Okay looking Marquee. It's pretty cool. And as you can see, this is the Star Wars arcade Marquee from the cockpit from 1983. It is actually the one that's on the back side of the cockpit. And this is one that I didn't know that I would ever get. I love this game. It's a vector-based game. I think I streamed it. There's also the Empire Strikes Back game, both, you know, vector. And there's also a Return of the Jedi game, but that's like completely different. That came later. Yeah, so I'm really happy about this one. I mean, I don't really care much about Star Wars these days, but old Star Wars, I love. That old arcade game, I love. And yeah, I'm just very happy to have gotten that one. All right, here we have Journey by Bally Midway. Yes, based off the band. This one's also from 1983. And it was made to coincide with Journey's tours. It's one of those ones that it's just like font, which are not my favorite Marquees, but it's at least a cool font. The goal of the game was actually to get the band members basically to get their instruments back or something. And the faces of the band were photos while the bodies were digitized. So weird game. Also on Atari 2600, I am pretty sure. This, of course, I think everybody will like this. This is the Super Mario Brothers arcade Marquee. This one's from 1986 versus Super Mario Brothers. A two-player version of Super Mario Brothers, which was a harder game than the original on NES, Famicom. It's on the Switch as well, the game, as part of the Arcade Archives. You might already know that. This is a paper Marquee. Some of them were paper, but it was original. You can tell it's like old, faded. But yeah, I mean, look at that. Look at Mario. Interesting to see all the different forms of, you know, artwork on Mario throughout the years. For me, it's always like, you know, it's like looking at old, you know, Mickey Mouse or old designs of Donald Duck and stuff like that, seeing how they transform through the years. I mean, look at that compared to how Mario looks now, you know. All right, here is Sky Shark by Romstar, who also did like Tiger Heli, Bubble Bobble, bunch of stuff. Very cool Marquee. This game was only called Sky Shark inside the US, and outside of the US it was called Flying Shark. I have never played this, but it is a very cool looking Marquee. I like the color scheme of it, the blues and the reds. It's a very, you know, very good looking Marquee, great artwork. All right, here we got another blue and red one, Captain America and the Avengers. I think you guys have probably heard of the Avengers. Very different than the NES game. Don't get it confused with that at all. Let's see. So this one, it's like a 4-player game. You might have seen it in the arcade. It's from 1991 by Data East. I'm a little bit lukewarm on the NES game. I think I actually do like this arcade game better. I haven't streamed it yet, but I would definitely like to eventually. You'll be a little bit more excited about this one. Here we've got Street Fighter, but no, not Street Fighter 2. This is the crappy one from 1987. You know, Capcom, you guys probably already know about this. I probably don't have to explain it. It did have a port on the TurboGrafx 16 CD called Fighting Street, if you remember that. And what is he supposed to be? Is that Vega or the Shredder, or I don't freaking know. But yeah, you guys know about that. Remember there was a board game for Street Fighter? Oh God, that's probably the only thing that's worse than this. All the people on my streams know how much I like Quicks or Kicks or however the fuck you want to pronounce it. I don't care. It's by Taito from 1981. Definitely one of my favorites of mine. It had a million different clones. There is one called Kokoma Night in Busyland on Super Nintendo, and I like the NES game a lot better. I'm sure the arcade version is better. This is one I didn't really get the opportunity to play much in the arcade. As far as the Marquee, very cool looking logo. I like the way it's sort of it's just a cool spacey design. Like everything back then, everything was space. All right, here is Zookeeper from 1982, also developed by Taito. This game, if you haven't played it, has you building walls to keep animals in their cages. I have also never played this one in the arcade. Another cartoony looking Marquee. I like the artwork on this one. He almost looks a little Mario-esque. I like the little animals and all that. Just a, you know, classic little old retro game. Not much more to say. Also, people that watch my Twitch streams know that I love Mr. Do. There was Mr. Do, Mr. Do's Castle, Mr. Do's Wild Ride, and this was the last one. I didn't even know this existed. Do Run Run? Yeah. So I think this killed the Mr. Do franchise. You know, people will say Mr. Do is, you know, it's just basically whatever, a clone of Dig Dug, basically, which it is. But I just like the theming actually of it better. This looks like shit, but the original game, you know, I like a lot with the clown and throwing the balls and all that. Made by Universal. This is an extremely ugly Marquee, but one of my very favorite arcade games. And last but not to be the least is this one, Food Fight, one of the classic arcade games of all time. This is one that I've been trying to get for a really, really, really long time. When I first started getting into Marquees, this is one of the main ones that I wanted. It was developed by General Computer Corporation in 1983, and I think the only other game that they did was Quantum, which I've never heard of or played. They did develop some 2600 games though, like Miss Pac-Man and Centipede, which are on the 2600. But anyway, forget about that. Look at this Marquee. Also, you know, it's sort of Burger Time-esque, but I love the artwork on this. It might be my favorite Marquee. It's a little torn up on there. It is a glass Marquee. But, you know, I love the artwork on this. I love this game. I love everything about it. This is, to me, what video games are all about right here. Chucking food at fucking chefs or whatever. But yeah, I am very happy that I finally was able to get this one.